Hi, Antonio. How are you?
Hello, hi, very well. You, all right?
Well, not too bad. Long time no see.
Yes, right.
Let me introduce the session and then we jump in.
Please.
Following a fascinating discussion covering the best practices for adopting zero trust model, let's continue discussing the biggest mistakes that organizations make on a regular basis when approaching the zero trust model. To cover this topic, we have invited Antonio Barriale, Managing Director of Bluefile Labs Ltd. Antonio is based in Malta, and he has a solid international experience developing secure mobile platforms and services, has produced several patents and created a portfolio of hardware software platforms and products for government and businesses to enhance their security and increase efficiency. He founded Bluefile Labs Ltd., where he coordinates the research and development team from around the world, and has created new technologies and solutions like EasyCube and EasyLink. Now, I can welcome you aboard, Antonio.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys.
Do you want to add anything to this brief introduction?
Actually, yes. First of all, I am a co-founder, not a founder, sorry. And also, yes, the experience is not based on Malta. On Malta, we only have the research and development, but our market is mainly based on Singapore and the Southeast Asia. So actually, we have been working with a lot of enterprises and also military agencies, because actually, still today, 80% of our products are on the military and government markets. So we have a very big pictures. And despite the title, the session title, which is a provocation, of course, we are not here to accuse pretentiously the organizations to do mistakes. But what we want to do here is just to share our expertise, our experience in the past 5 years deploying zero trust solutions for the sake of our audience. All right.
Yeah, but I appreciate this title. I mean, what element that has been consistent during the previous sessions we have had today with our colleagues in Latin, in the US and Europe, is that there are a lot of misconceptions, and related to zero trust. So I think it's important also to approach this topic in a critical way, trying to shed some light on, on the confusion and on the misunderstandings. I think that's also an important way to help the industry. So after this brief introduction, let's crack on with the questions. My first question is, what are the common mistakes that organizations make when it comes to zero trust?
All right. So in our experience, there are many, but there is a main topic, which is very important. That is the following one. So zero trust is not a solution. Zero trust is not a set of solutions, but it's a mindset, it's a strategy, it's a philosophy that you need to apply at any level. So actually, this is very complex to explain, because people just think that if you buy a new brand product with zero trust, feature, you solve all your problems. But your problems, mostly of the problems, have been created by yourself during the years, making complex infrastructures and approaching security as a multi-layer patching systems. So actually today the systems are so complex and there are a lot of legacy. We will talk about this maybe later. And it's very complex to apply zero trust. But more in, let's try to list a couple of operational mistakes, let's say. First of all, before applying zero trust to the organizations, you need to clearly define the scope of the zero trust implementation, because sometimes, otherwise there is confusion, inconsistency, etc. Sometimes it's much better to create a set of priorities in what do you want to protect, okay? Because sometimes it's better to have a solution that cover 90% of your, specific problem than an average solution that cover 40%, 50% of everything, So actually define the scope. The second mistake is that usually people know that the zero trust is about control, because you don't trust anybody. So you need to control them. And they say, yes, okay, I have a very good control of the users, the devices, etc. Yes, but we have been doing this for years. So every big organization is based on policy access management systems, identity access management systems. So what's the news here? So what is the novelty here? The novelty is the way you control and when you control. Sometimes you control things when it's too late. For example, let me give you an example. We had a country, your organization is just like a country, and you want to protect your country from terrorists. Would you prefer to check and control the terrorist after the immigration at the airport when the terrorist is already in downtown, or better to block them and control it before? So actually the keyword is not what to control. Of course, we need to control users and devices, but the keywords are others. How and when. Let me give you another example. Today we control users with multi-factor authentication, etc. We also control devices. How? By means of the IP address, MAC address, all things that can be easily modified. There are other strategies. When you say, I don't trust, zero trust, you don't even trust the MAC address of your computer. So you need to find another way. And working with the military people, and today there are strategies that are available also for the enterprise market. There are many ways. I don't know if you ever heard about physical unclonable functions, for example. Mm-hmm. There are ways to retrieve the fingerprint, digital fingerprint of the silicon of your chipset that not even the manufacturer is able to clone. So this is a way. There are techniques. There is innovation in these things. So the keyword is not control or what to control. We all control users, devices, and why not applications? And why not? We control the time that that application is used by that user on that device and the place. So at least 5 controls. And sometimes you say, no, but I control the user, I have multi-factor authentication is enough. This is not really zero trust. If you want to implement zero trust, you really don't need to trust anybody, not even the device that you're using, the application, the user, not even the time that is, emulated by the computer, etc., or the place. Another couple of things are, for example, another mistake is the impact on the user experience. There are, let's say, quite good solutions, zero trust solutions that you may implement in your organization, but the impact on the user experience and then on the operations is so high that can be disruptive and frustrating. So you may fail to take this into account because maybe difficulty getting users to adopt and comply with the new security measures. In the end, they will either don't use or they use in a wrong way. So actually, even the user experience is a very good key point. And finally, of course, there are things that you may be aware, the brochures, the vendors, etc. Now, zero trust is just like the new trend, like artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, whatever, blockchains, whatever. Be careful because most of the vendors are just proposing a bundle of solutions that maybe are already implemented in your organizations, but they present them as a zero trust. So as a vendor, and I put myself as a vendor, we should be a little bit more transparent with you in order to prevent you to make mistakes. So more or less, this is the situation. We may talk about this for hours, but I think that the main topics are these ones.
This is very interesting what you just say, and it's connected to one of the questions from the Q&A. Do you think that vendors are sometimes responsible for creating unrealistic expectations? Well,
I really think so. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. If you, oh yes, I can. Can I just share this? Yes. Let me share this comic strip, which is very popular on the web in this moment about the vendors. It's Dilbert strip already. The cybersecurity market is rapidly evolving. We need to propose new revolutionary solutions, the boss. And again, resilient IT and zero trust approach and assume each model is the new way. And the guy is very happy, says, wow, I'm excited to sell new products. What new products? Change the brochures and keep selling VPN. Nobody will notice. Okay, so unfortunately, okay, this is extreme, but it's something that is happening because people are not yet educated. So even in the organizations. So coming back to your, going back to your question, one way to help organizations avoid making mistakes with zero trust is to provide education and training, but not on the solutions, on the principles and best practice of the model. Because again, zero trust is just a model, is not just one solution. And this can help ensure that decision makers have a clear understanding of what zero trust is and what is not, which is even more important. And also organization can consult with experts, etc., not really the vendor or the dealer or the distributor. So there are many ways. Of course, your organization is one of the ways, because you share a lot of very interesting information in order to clarify concepts and clarify these new technologies. And also, very important, organization can also use a risk-based approach to implement Zero Trust. And this involves assessing the risk level of different assets, etc., users, networks, etc. Zero Trust is not only on the data center, on the database, or the network. Again, it applies to the whole infrastructure. And then, of course, especially in our case, the main point, the key point of Zero Trust, or better, the first, let's say, step to go for Zero Trust solutions is, of course, connectivity, because today connectivity is something that everybody needs. We want to work from everywhere. Data must be available at any time and everywhere. But connectivity is also a problem for the propagation of malwares, ransomware, etc. Okay, we know something about this, even because in the past years we experienced in a different way with the COVID. So the contacts, the connectivity that we are using, the network of people, of course, is the first way for the virus to spread out. And this is the same for infrastructure. But I think that we have time to talk about this as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we touch upon, how can we help organizations from making these mistakes? And I fully agree on what you say about, education. I think that's very important. We understand, that vendors are trying to sell, and we understand that also CISOs, they really need some education. CISOs and other departments, because at the end of the day, this is a transversal program that is gonna, in order to be successful, that is gonna involve, actually the business. In terms of security and networking, what are the issues that can be solved by adopting a Zero Trust approach? Can any size business benefit from this approach, or is it just suited for large enterprises? And also, I would add to this question, also critical infrastructure environments, is suited for that.
Yeah, very important. So let me start with this concept. First of all, Zero Trust is not only for big organizations, but it's for every organization, even small size, medium size, micro companies, whatever. So this is the first mistake, again, that most of the organization, they think that it's just suitable for large enterprise. Not true, not true. Even because if you want to protect a data breach, this is valid for medium, big, or very, very small companies. So in terms of what you protect with the Zero Trust approach, of course, there are many things. Data breaches, for example. The Zero Trust can help prevent data breaches by requiring that users and devices are verified before giving the connection and the access. This is a very, again, you remember before we talked about when. This before is a keyword. You need to control before, because most of the solutions say, okay, send me the packets and then I will inspect, I will check, I will control. Sometimes it's too late. I don't want to send you the packet to the payload. I want to be sure before that the payload is okay. And also, I want to create the connectivity in a dynamical way. So I don't want to create a route and then I'll do my best to protect the access. It's much better if I don't have any route, any access, and then I created the access only after checking the user and the application and the device and the time and the place. And let me introduce a very important concept. If you want to accomplish this, you cannot do this with physical stuff. You need virtualization. You need software-defined connectivity, okay? And this is not a new concept. This is a new concept for the IT scamming, the cloud. Virtualization now has been used for many years, but not in the networking, let's say, in the networking fashion. So when I say network, software-defined network of network virtualization, it doesn't mean that the physical router becomes a virtual machine implementing a router. The physical firewall becomes a virtual firewall. No, you need to virtualize the connectivity. You need to create a very strict connection channel, micro-segmenting, these kind of channels for this specific application, running on this computer for this user in this moment and in this place, only targeting that specific target service. So this is dynamical. So actually, in this way, you can solve a lot of problems. Which kind of problems? Data breaches, we already talked about this. Insider threats as well, because you can mitigate the risk of insider threats, controlling and monitoring the access. And also you can mitigate, or you can reduce the surface of attack. If you are very good, you can just minimize. you can just eliminate, at least on the network side, we will talk about this a little bit more later, the
even
zero
ransomware
attacks.
even ransomware.
Yes, also for run. Let's say this before we talked about priorities. You need to understand that sooner or later you will be attacked. So the assumed breach model is a key point. Your computer sooner or later will be attacked. This is a fact. It's not if, it's when. So actually you need to understand what do you want to protect. Can you accept that your ransomware is compromising all your local data? Maybe yes, if I can guarantee that the ransomware doesn't propagate to my centralized system. Because the real problem of ransomware is not the single computer. You can accept that single data is destroyed. There are many ways to rescue the computer in a very fast way. There are, systems like a virtual desktop, whatever, images, whatever. But you cannot accept that the ransomware propagates and destroys data on all the other computers and endpoints, including your central server. So the access is very important. This is very easy with the control.
So I understand that there is an important relationship. I mean, what you're saying is fascinating because, we have been talking about ransomware, we have been talking about data breaches for the last 10 years, but the problem is that companies continue to be attacked and breached, and ransomware is a pandemic. So I understand from what you say that there is a correlation, or there is an important relationship between resilience and zero trust maturity, right?
Yeah, let me give you an example. If you have a real zero trust application control, that is not just whitelisting on the firewall or a web, whatever, but let's suppose that you are able, to say that this drive is only accessible by Word, Excel, and any other application that you trust. And if you are able to understand that the Excel that you trust is the one that you calculated the digital signature when you tested everything in your organization. So even if something is attacking, the digital signature will change. With this simple check, you may have a ransomware running on your computer, and we have a demo, real-time demo for this. And the ransomware cannot attack your files just because it's one of the many infinite applications that are not able to access your drive with one simple control. Can you understand how powerful is the control when you adopt it in the right way? We have a real-time demo showing that you may have a ransomware, maybe compromising all your personal data on your computer, but that specific folder that is a virtual drive, virtualization again, that is accessible only by a set of limited applications cannot be attacked by the ransomware. Stop, full stop. That's it.
Interesting.
And you can do the same for the network access, So the concept here, when you have a zero trust, is to be able to create connectivity and isolation at the same time. You say, but how is this possible? There are examples, very innovative examples, maybe we can talk about this later, that allow you to create something that looks magic, but it is not. Normally, innovation is not just you create a new zero trust or any other things, technologies. But there are some solutions and methodologies that are very consolidated and very well proven in other domains. And when you put that technologies, that strategies in your domains, it looks like magic, but it's not magic. It's just some solution that you never considered before. I will give an example later. I promise.
Let's get back to the education thing and how can we help organizations? How can we help organizations navigate through the hype? Is there a method or process that could help organizations in the evaluation of adequate solutions to their security and needs?
Of course, there is not one methodology. What I can share is what we normally do, and it was successful in many, many projects in the past 5-7 years. First of all, you need to define the problem. You need to first clearly define the security and the networking problems that you are trying to solve. What is your problem? GDPR, data breach, database, or maybe a process, or maybe you want to protect water pumps because we are in the critical infrastructures, etc. So you need to define what you want to protect. What is your priority? The second, identify the requirements. So the specific requirements that the solution must meet in order to effectively address the problems and your risks. And then evaluate the solutions. Again, don't trust the vendors, but to try to evaluate solutions based on how well they meet your requirements. Okay, for example, taking into account factors such as costs, complexity, and ease of integration with existing systems. And finally, you need to test. Sometimes I've seen many organizations, when they have a POC, proof of concept, they just limit to check functionalities, but they don't check if this solution is just a very good in order to solve my problems. Or I'm just introducing new vulnerabilities in my organization. So it's very important that you monitor and then you evaluate and you test the solutions, not in terms of functionalities, but in terms of security, vulnerabilities, assurance tests. Okay, this is very important. And finally, of course, you need to continuously monitor and adapt these kind of solutions to your needs. But most important, to prioritize your needs, okay? Because there is no solution that cover all your needs, but you need to start from something, okay? And also another thing, if you want to be prepared to do zero trust, sometimes people say, okay, I ask them, what do you want to protect? What are the applications, the services that are running on your organization? Oh, there are too many. We really don't know. We never listed all the applications and services. We don't have a catalog of applications. But this is the first point. This is a starting point. If you want to protect something, you need to know what to protect. So first of all, please prepare a list of services that are running on your organization, and then you start from there. If you don't have the catalog of application, it's difficult to protect them because you don't know what to protect. So zero trust is very powerful, but you need to know what to protect. So this is very important.
So okay. I understand from this that we should start with a maturity assessment of the organization, where we evaluate if there is visibility, if there is asset management, in at least at a very basic level in place. Because if not, you are not going to be able to basically to apply protection. And visibility is not a trivial thing. I mean, it's a massive problem in many organizations, for services, for infrastructure. Think about that, all that shadow IT, etc. That's a very interesting point. In your experience, how much it is about digital transformation replacing the legacy infrastructure, as it is about implementing new approaches to security controls and networking?
All right, this is a very hot topic, especially about legacy application infrastructure. In our experience, implementing zero trust is both about digital transformation and implementing new approaches to security controls and networking. However, it's very important to note that zero trust, again, is not just about replacing the legacy infrastructure. It's also about implementing new approaches to security controls and networking, as we talked before. And zero trust requires that the organizations rethink their approach to security. I know that it's very complex because everything new, it's scaring. People are lazy. People are very stuck on the traditional ways, etc. Maybe later, if we have time, I will give an example of how to do something very disruptive in the domain of zero trust network access. And people do not do this just because they don't know they want to do the things the same way they've been doing in the past years. Okay, so actually this means that the organization need to implement new security controls such as multi-factor authentication, but not only, the device trust and continuous monitoring, etc. So again, the device, but not with MAC address, IP address, etc., with new techniques and new technologies. But it's also infrastructural. It's also in terms of topologies. You know that most of the attacks are, of course, today are done on the endpoint, and then the endpoint is just a jumping device in order to reach your organizations, okay? So actually, that's the reason why the zero trust access is very important. But have you ever thought about changing this topology? Client to server is very common, is 99.99% of any infrastructure. But what about other topologies like client to client? Like the one that we are using now in this moment. Actually, I'm sending packets to your computer in this moment, my voice, my video, okay? And you don't need to open not even one single port on your computer. And you don't have a public or published IP address. How this is possible? So actually, this is possible because there is a broker in the middle, which is Zoom. Okay, but the Zoom broker is something that is changing our topology. It's not anymore a client to server, it's a client to client. Normally, when people think about client to client, they think about peer-to-peer or something like this. It's not a peer-to-peer what we are doing now. It's a video conferencing system. We have a lot of people connected. But the client to client, the change of mindset, again, change of control external topology allows you to expose your computer without opening not even one port, without having public IP address. So actually, you don't need any firewall. I know that this is just an example of how disrupting is this kind of change of mindset, but you risk to simplify the infrastructure and increase the security level a lot in a very disruptive way. And also, in addition, the Zero Trust requires this new approach into networking where all traffic is considered untrusted. That's the reason why, if you don't trust the traffic, if you don't trust people, why would you, let's say, open ports and put a firewall and struggling with the segmentation, etc., when there is a way changing your mindset, changing your topology to eliminate all ports? You know, this is what we are doing now. There are many solutions, not only our solution doing this today, but they are not the traditional ones like firewall, VPN, routers, etc. Even because the big players, if they adopt this strategy, they won't sell any more their products because they are not going to sell any more firewall, routers, or VPN or whatever. Okay, so actually there are new players coming, especially on the virtualization side, on the cloud side, which are more advanced. Okay, but not yet ready to cover hybrid systems, on-premise, etc. But the techniques is there. And the techniques is not new. It's been always used by ICT, companies. You do this every day. When I call your mobile phone, I don't care about your IP address. And on your mobile phone, you don't need to open not even one port. You don't have a fixed public IP address, and I can still send my voice to you. Okay, just relying on another identifier, your mobile phone number, because there is a broker in the middle. And the broker is the network creator. So today, organization should start playing to be the network creator, not just the network consumer. Okay, so there is a way, there is a software-defined way, there is a change of topology, and you may do magic things. Like, for example, 4 years ago, we created the first data center in the world without public IP address, and only authorized users can go and can connect and can access with a zero trust, real zero trust. Can you imagine to do a penetration test on a data center that doesn't have any public IP address, doesn't have any open ports? Companies refuse to do this because they don't know what to write on the report. Okay, so actually new security, new networking, new transformation. And this is a very key point, okay? So it's not about legacy or not legacy. You may have a legacy applications still, but you need to change the way you access the legacy applications. Okay.
I have a question for you. We are talking about the new topologies, and I fully understand that. In particular, we have seen, a massive transformation during the pandemic where, people move into, working from home, remote working and all that stuff, So I understand that, the perimeter has been modified, but, they say, also, they talk a lot about identity, and they say they relate identity within the Zero Trust model as identity as the new perimeter. So what do you think about that? What do you think is the role of identity in this transformation,
Okay, first of all, I think that we should shift from a perimeter-based approach to a more granular risk-based approach. Because the perimeter is not something that you need anymore. I don't want to have a perimeter to access my data center. I want just a single access to a single application. Identity is very important, and you need to check the identity not only before granting the access, but even after, because this is another problem. Sometimes all the very good authentication systems, they authenticate your identity, they verify your identity, and that's all. But they don't do it again while you are connected. What if someone is using your identity check, to breach your systems? So you need to verify identity, the payload signature every time. Even very popular technologies like TLS, whatever, that are by compliance, they are mandatory in many tenders, organizations. They don't sign packets. So they don't control the identity of the signature of the packets every time. They just have a very good authentication at the beginning, but that's all. So the identity must be controlled in terms of users, devices, payload, applications, but not only at the beginning. It's a continuous control. And also the perimeter doesn't make sense anymore. So actually today on my computer, what I need is that an application is able to be connected to a specific service, not to a data center, not to a subnet, not to a remote network. It's just an application connected to a service. That's all. Granularity. It's not anymore perimeter. It's just a connectivity that dynamically is created when you need it, and after and not before controlling the user, the device, the application, the time and the place. Okay, so I think that we need to switch from the perimeter-based to the more granular risk-based approach. It's time to change.
Just before jumping into the last question, and you're going to have time actually.
Please.
Yeah, just before jumping into the next question, I'm curious about how is going to be Zero Trust affected by all this quantum technology revolution? Because I understand that there is going to be an impact, right?
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good question. There is an impact for sure, because the quantum computer is becoming more and more real every day. And also the NIST already published in the 2015, the first time, a document stating that any PKI based on standard algorithms like, Diffie-Hellman, RSA, elliptic curves, etc., is not working anymore against quantum attacks. Now, encryption is very important. The authentication process is important. That's the reason why the NIST is now shortlisting the finalists, the final algorithms. And it's very important that the solution, Zero Trust solution that you are going to select is supporting the crypto agility. All right, crypto agility. The crypto agility is the capability to change algorithms when you need. So in case the new algorithms are not good, you can push a button and then push the new mathematics to your infrastructure. But the encryption and authentication is just the first step. The topology allows you to close all ports, for example, even without encryption. So there are two different aspects. There is the encryption, authentication, the cryptographic aspects is very important. So there are post-quantum computer algorithms. For example, we give these algorithms for free in our technologies. It's very important, but even more important is the crypto agility, because the crypto agility allows you to change the mathematical schemes of your infrastructure at any time, just pushing one button.
So I understand that crypto agility is a key element to consider when acquiring and implementing basically during the vendor assessment process, right?
Yeah, this is very important, crypto agility, yeah.
My last question is, what are the innovation elements which in your experience might bring effective benefits in the reduction of the attack surface? And what are the elements that are workarounds? What are your recommendations?
Okay, let's focus on the Zero Trust applied to the network access, which is also our main, let's say, topics. Now, I already anticipated that it's important to create innovation. And to create innovation, you don't need to invent new things. So you just can look at around you to in other domains, and you can get, you can copy some strategy that has been working for years or decades. And in this case, as I mentioned before, the change of topology is the best innovating element that you may add to your Zero Trust access control, solution. Because when you translate the client to server paradigm to client, first, and especially if you do this dynamically in a software defined way, you win. Why? Because you are able to create a client from a server. Let me give an example. My client wants to be connected to a service that is in Spain or in Singapore or whatever. Normally, you need to open a port, you need to either create a VPN, have a public IP address, etc. But if you switch to the paradigm of client to client, that server becomes a client. You have a broker which is routing the communication and creating dynamically your software-defined networking. And you create the routes and the accesses after controlling, not before. So it's not a static things like the route in your router or the rule in your firewall. It's something dynamical. And you create this granular, this very, very strict access from this specific application running from this computer, from this URL, in this place, in this time, and you can only target that specific service. And that specific service doesn't need to open not even one port and not even having a public IP address. You may have servers with dynamic IP, DHCP. It looks magic, but it is not, again. It's something that you do every day with the ICT, telecommunication systems, etc. We are doing this right now. And now, let's imagine this scenario. I have a server that doesn't need to open even one port. It means that if you are physically there and you plug a cable, Ethernet cable, into the physical machine, you don't do anything because all ports are closed. Do you still need a firewall? No. Do you still need the router for the network segmentation? Each single server can be on a flat LAN without static IP address, dynamical IP plan, okay? And even if you attack the single server, because we may have some vulnerabilities in this strategy, the single server is completely isolated from the others, even if they are on the same LAN, because each single server doesn't need to open not even one port. So you understand that the topology is a key point in this kind of scenario. It's something disruptive, it's something different, but it's something that solves a lot of problems and simplifies your network. Because complexity is the first enemy of security. So when you are able to apply zero trust with a change of topology and some innovative solutions and doing the checks, the verification before and even after, not only after, and also with this kind of change of mindset, you simplify the infrastructure, you are very, very, very close to your result, okay? Of course, there is still a percentage, a small percentage or whatever, but you really changed your mindset. And if you put yourself on the attacker's shoes, they don't understand what they have. They don't understand what to attack. They don't have visibility. They don't have nothing. And you are going to create a new infrastructure, which is much more simple, where you don't need any more VPN, firewalls, router, etc. This is the true zero trust software-defined network. Okay, so just to give an example, then we may talk about for hours with real examples and use cases, etc. But of course, we don't have time here. But Antonio, I really hope that I gave you an overview of this, please.
Absolutely, that was a wonderful answer. We are running out of time, but there are many questions from the audience, but there is one that is curious to me, and I want to cover this just in a couple of minutes, because again, we are overrunning.
Yeah, sure.
What does you think about the eventual benefits of joining zero trust with artificial intelligence and blockchain for system authentication? What are your thoughts on that?
Couple of minutes. Let's suppose that what we mentioned before, I'm able to check your identity as a user, your device identity, your application identity, the time and the place, and then I give you the access only to this specific target. Okay, I am almost, the winner. But what if the attacker, he's able to have all your identities, all the parameters that we are checking? The only way is to check the behavior, because the only difference between me using this application, the device, etc., and the attacker is the way I use the application. So the artificial intelligence is a key point in order to check another element, which is the behavior. So the only way to distinguish you as a person, your device, etc., from the same things that an attacker can do, same place, same time, same identity, multi-factor authentication, device, same application, etc., is the behavior. Okay. So actually, in my opinion, this is very important to apply machine learning to this, because the next element and maybe the last element that you want to check is the behavior of the user. In this case, you are pretty sure that you are checking everything.
And blockchain.
Thank you for the question.
I understand that. I understand you have the end user and behavior analysis component. And blockchain?
About blockchain is another way to check, to verify without having a centralized way. For me, blockchain and the certification authority, in principle, they are the same function. It's just the different way you apply the certification. Of course, the blockchain is much more, robust if you want, because it's more difficult to attack in terms of topology and infrastructure.
The decentralized version, right?
It's decentralized version. So actually, you don't have one single point of failure, just to say this. but it works only if you have a lot of
Nodes.
nodes. Otherwise, it's useless. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's not for everybody. It's not for every organization. Some organizations may be capable to create their own private blockchain. Otherwise, you need to rely third parties blockchain. At that point, it's just like to rely the central, the certification authority third parties. So actually, it makes sense when you are able to control it. Okay. Or at least when you have a lot of nodes. This is very important.
Okay,
Otherwise,
thank you. Thank you very much, Antonio. It has been a fascinating discussion. I have overrun
Thanks
it
a lot.
bit, but we have covered.
Sorry for this. Sorry.
No, I think
Okay.
it's important. We have covered some questions that are absolutely relevant. So I encourage the audience to stay with us, because we are jumping right now in another discussion about why identity protection is essential for Zero Trust implementation.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'll be following it.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Appreciate it.
Very welcome. Bye.